The universities of Wisconsin now looking for new leadership after a unanimous vote last night to fire system president Jay Rothman. The Board of Regents voted to remove Rothman, effective immediately, for what they describe as months of discussions and a formal performance review. Rothman is telling the Associated Press that he was, quote, blindsided by this move. Rothman had led the UW system since 2022, overseeing budget negotiations, campus changes, and ongoing political tension tied to higher education. The board says this decision, though, was not made lightly.
The board has engaged with President Rothman in good faith discussions over the past several months. This does not diminish the president's many contributions, which we acknowledge and greatly appreciate.
Vice President Chris Patton will step in as acting executive in charge as the board begins the search for an interim president and eventually a permanent replacement. Well, State Senator Rob Hutton released a statement here blasting that decision, saying the board appears to be, quote, distracted by politics and unable to concentrate on the big picture challenges facing the UW system, adding the move, quote, further diminishes the reputation of the UW brand. And Senator Patrick Testin going even further, calling the firing a, quote, blatant partisan hatchet job, saying Rothman is being punished for working across the aisle and warning the board's actions could carry consequences moving forward here.